There's a Neville line I've always come back to. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue feeling it until it objectifies itself. When I first worked with that, I didn't really know how to apply it. I understood it as a concept, but in real life, I kept turning it into something like stay positive no matter what, which honestly just isn't how I operate as a human being. What shifted for me was combining Neville with my background in social psychology, and also just paying attention to how I actually move through fear in real time. I started noticing something simple but important. My mind doesn't begin with logic. It begins with whatever feels most immediate or most emotionally loud in the moment, and then it builds meaning around that afterward. Neville called this selective hearing. I've always understood it less as something mystical and more as attention narrowing itself without permission. You don't take in reality evenly. You lock onto certain cues, certain interpretations, and then everything else gets filtered through that lens. Once that happens, it feels like truth, even though it started as selection. That's where everything works out for me, started to shift for me. Not as forced optimism, but as a way of not letting the first interpretation become the final one. Because what I noticed in myself is how fast I turn emotional reactions into conclusions. Something happens, and within seconds, there's a sense of this means something about me, or this is now pointing toward a specific outcome. That jump is so fast it feels like certainty, even when it's just interpretation taking over too early. And this is where I started seeing what people call spiritual bypassing show up in everyday life. It's usually not extreme. It looks normal. Someone gets left on read by someone they care about. There's that immediate hit internally, but instead of staying with it, they jump straight into this is all working out, or I'm not affected. But their behavior tells the truth. They keep checking the phone, rereading the message, scanning silence for meaning that isn't actually there yet. Someone gets feedback at work that lands a bit sharp. On the surface, they respond well. Something like, I appreciate this. But later that night, they're still replaying it, reconstructing the conversation, imagining alternate versions of what they could have said. The words say closure, but the system is still open. Someone goes through a breakup and immediately moves into affirmations about the relationship already being restored. But they don't actually let the emotional weight register. So instead of processing it, it gets displaced into distraction, scrolling, or mental looping that keeps the attachment active in the background. None of that is failure. It's just what happens when a concept is used to override experience instead of integrate it. What I've found closer to Neville's actual frame is simpler. The experience is allowed, but it doesn't get final authority. It can move through fully, but it doesn't get to define identity or lock meaning in place. So I can feel rejection without turning it into a conclusion about direction. I can feel pressure without turning it into prediction. I can be in the middle of something unresolved and still not let it finalize the story early. That distinction is the whole practice for me. Not bypassing what's happening, but not handing it the final word either. And I've tested this enough in my own life while working through fear that I trust the pattern. What feels final in the moment is almost never final in the outcome. The successful call is usable. The failed call is usable. The delay is usable. The opportunity is usable. Even what feels uncomfortable in the moment is usable. Because if everything works out for me, then nothing that shows up in the middle gets to become an exception to the assumption. What I actually do in real time is this. I don't try to change the feeling first. I mentally reduce the intensity of the moment so it stops feeling like it's happening right now. Then I step into a future version of myself who has already integrated it and notice how neutral it looks from there. That distance breaks the automatic link between the moment and its meaning, so the experience can stay present without controlling the story.